My daughter-in-law put up a TikTok and it said, "My mother-in-law doesn't do anything anymore. It's her duty to take care of the house and the kids." She was laughing while people online were applauding her for being so honest. I just gave a little smile and closed the app on my phone. I made up my mind right then and there that I was going to teach her a lesson, one she would never forget. When she finally got home, she was absolutely stunned by what she saw. I honestly never thought things would get to this point, that at 68 years old, my hands all rough and scarred from working hard for 40 years, I'd be sitting in my own living room watching thousands of strangers laugh at me. It was a Thursday afternoon. I can still remember the smell of cinnamon from the coffee I had just made, and the sound of the birds chirping out on the deck. I had just finished cleaning the entire house like I always did, and I sat down for just a minute in my armchair. It's the one I bought maybe 20 years ago, and it's still the original navy blue color because I take such good care of it. I picked up my cell phone. I'm not one of those old ladies who can't figure out how to use technology. I taught myself how by watching tutorials online and asking my neighbor Gladys for help. I went onto TikTok because my granddaughter Kyla had shown me how to use it to find recipes and watch cat videos, just little things that made me smile. But that day, the algorithm showed me something very different. I saw the face of Jasmine, my daughter-in-law, smiling at the camera with what I always thought was a genuine smile. She was wearing a pink blouse that I had actually given her myself for her birthday. The video started with a catchy little tune playing in the background, and she was talking right to the screen. "You guys want to know the absolute best thing about having a mother-in-law?" she said in a sing-songy voice, raising her eyebrows like she was about to tell the funniest joke ever. My heart didn't suspect a thing yet. "I don't have to do a single thing around the house," she went on, and my stomach just clenched up in a knot. The camera moved around to show my kitchen. My kitchen, where I had literally just been washing the breakfast dishes that they had left in the sink. You could see me from the back in my yellow floral apron, the very same one I'd used for years, because it always reminded me of when my husband Richard was still alive. "My mother-in-law, she doesn't really have anything else going on in her life," Jasmine said in a mocking tone. "So, it's basically her duty to take care of the house and the kids. I mean, really, what else is she going to do? Just sit around watching TV all day?" She laughed, that laugh that I knew so well from all the family dinners and Sunday afternoons. But now it sounded so different. It sounded mean. The comments started loading on my screen. Thousands of them. "LOL. You go, girl. That's what grandmothers are for. Let the old folks work. Oh yeah. Gotta earn that keep." I felt like something just broke inside me. It wasn't a loud, dramatic kind of pain. It was so much worse. It was like when your favorite antique teacup breaks, and the sound is so quiet you barely hear it. But when you look down at the floor, it's shattered into a million little pieces. My hands were shaking as I held the phone. 63,000 likes, 800 comments, thousands of shares. I had been turned into the afternoon's entertainment for thousands of people who didn't even know me, who didn't know my name, who didn't know what I had built, what I had sacrificed, what I had given. I closed the app, but the image was burned into my mind, into my soul. I stood up from the armchair. My legs were holding me up, but I felt like I was walking on cotton. I went into the kitchen and poured myself a glass of water, from the set I bought when I got married almost 50 years ago. I drank it slowly, trying to get my breathing back to normal. I could hear laughter coming from Jasmine and my son Ethan's bedroom. She was showing him the video. I could hear her voice saying, "Look, baby, it already has over 50,000 likes. People get it. See?" And the worst part was what came next. It was the voice of my son, my Ethan, the boy I held in my arms when his father passed away, and people were telling me I wouldn't be able to raise him on my own. The young man I took on 2 city buses every single morning to school because we didn't have a car. The man I hugged on his wedding day, promising him that he would always have a home with me. "Oh, Jassy, you're right," he said. "Besides, Mom's old now. What else can she do?" They both just laughed together. In that moment I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't break anything. I just smiled. It was a small, quiet smile that came from some deep place inside me that I didn't even know existed. because in that second, as I was listening to their laughter, as I saw the notifications keep popping up on my phone, still in my hand, I understood something that was going to change everything. I had been too good, too quiet, too available. I had confused love with invisibility, and that was about to come to an end. I opened the video again and watched every single second of it. Every mocking little gesture. Every comment calling me a gold digger or a burden. And as I watched, my mind just started to work, because Jasmine had just made the biggest mistake of her entire life. She had no idea who she was messing with. She didn't know that this house she walked through so comfortably, with such arrogance, actually had an owner. And that owner was not some weak or defeated woman. It was me, Ruthie Mae Jakes. And I was about to remind everyone who built these walls. I turned off my phone, took off my apron, poured myself another cup of coffee and started making a plan. Because if I've learned anything in my 68 years of life, it's that battles aren't won by shouting. They're won by thinking, waiting, and acting at the exact right moment. And my moment was about to arrive. That night I just couldn't sleep. I lay there in my bedroom, the smallest one in the house, the one with the view of the alley and not the yard, staring up at the ceiling while I listened to Ethan and Jasmine snoring away in the master bedroom, the one that had been mine for 30 years, the one I had given up so they could be more comfortable. I woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning like usual. My bones already had that internal clock that doesn't even need an alarm. I put on my robe, clean but threadbare at the elbows, and went out to the backyard. The air was cool. It smelled like damp earth even though it hadn't rained. I sat down on the concrete bench next to the lemon tree, the one I planted when Ethan was 5 years old, and that now gives lemons as big as your fists. And there in the darkness, lit only by the yellow light from the street lamp, I let the memories come, because I needed to remember. I needed my own history to give me the strength that I felt slipping right through my fingers. I bought this house back in 1988. Let me say that again so you really understand clearly. I bought it with my own money with my own 2 hands. I was just 28 years old and I had just buried Richard. Stomach cancer. It was only 4 months from when he was diagnosed until he closed his eyes for the last time. Squeezing my hand like he wanted to take a piece of me with him. I was left all alone with Ethan, who was 3 years old and still asked for his daddy every single night before bed. With no savings and no family who could help us out. My parents had already passed away, and Richard's family disappeared the moment they realized there wasn't going to be any inheritance. People told me, sell out, Ruthie Mae. Go back to your hometown. Find yourself a man to take care of you. I would just smile at them and think to myself, I'd rather die. I got a job at the textile factory down in the old industrial district, 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. shift. I sewed pockets onto denim jeans, $500 a day. My fingers bled for the first few weeks until they developed calluses so hard that I couldn't even feel the needles anymore. But it still wasn't enough, so I got another job. From 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. I cleaned offices in a downtown high-rise. I took Ethan with me. I'd sit him in a chair with his crayons and little books while I mopped floors, emptied trash cans, and polished desks where other people were making important decisions. I slept about 4 hours a night, sometimes only 3. On weekends, I sold homemade sweet potato pies and fried chicken dinners that I prepared late on Friday nights. I took them in a big cooler to the church bazaar. Ethan helped me shout, "Hot dinners! Get your pie and chicken here." Every single dollar that I earned, I saved in a metal box that I hid under my bed. No luxuries, no new clothes, no going out, just work, just saving. Just the dream of having a place of my own where my son could grow up safe and sound. Took me 5 years. 5 years of waking up before the sun and going to bed after it had already risen again. 5 years of watching Ethan grow up practically without me, raised between factories and offices, eating cold sandwiches and sleeping on borrowed chairs. But in 1993, when Ethan turned 8 years old, I signed the deed to this house. It was small back then, just 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, and a kitchen and living room that were basically all the same space. The walls had cracks in them. The roof leaked whenever it rained really hard. The floor tiles were broken. There was no yard, just a patch of dirt and weeds. But it was mine. I cried the day I got the keys. I cried so hard that Ethan got scared and hugged me, saying, "Don't cry, Mommy. We're going to be okay now." And I started fixing it up. I installed the bathroom tiles myself. I watched tutorials at the library, and I asked for advice from the bricklayers who were working in the neighborhood. I bought the cheapest materials I could find and installed them with my own hands. I cut myself. I burned myself with the cement mix. My back ached for weeks, but it was beautiful. I painted the walls light yellow because I wanted the light to come in. I planted the lemon tree. I put pots with red geraniums by the entrance. I built the concrete bench where I was now sitting. By the time Ethan turned 15, we had a full yard. We held his birthday party right here. We invited about 30 people. There was music, barbecue ribs, and German chocolate cake that I made using my grandmother's recipe. My son hugged me that night and said, "Thank you for giving us this home, Mom. Someday I'm going to take care of you, just like you took care of me." I treasured those words deep down in my heart. When Ethan finished high school, I expanded the house. I took out a loan and built 2 more bedrooms, one for him and one for me. I separated them with a hallway so he could have his privacy. I gave him his own closet, his own space. "For when you bring your wife home," I joked. He just laughed and said, "Mom, you're always going to be the queen of this house." I paid off that loan in 3 years, working double shifts again without complaining because it was for my son, for our future. Ethan studied business administration at City College. I paid for his books, his bus fare, his food. I worked cleaning houses on Saturdays and Sundays so he could concentrate on his studies and not have to work. He graduated with honors. We cried together on his graduation day. He gave me a bouquet of yellow flowers, my favorites, and told all his classmates, "These are from my mom. She's the reason I'm standing here." I was the proudest woman in the whole world. 2 years later, he met Jasmine. She worked as a receptionist at the firm where Ethan got his first job. She was pretty, friendly, and well-spoken. I liked her right from the start. When Ethan told me they were getting married, I hugged her and said, "Welcome to the family, sweetheart. This house is yours too." And I truly meant every single word. We organized the wedding right here in the backyard. We didn't have the money for a big venue, but we made it beautiful. We had lights strung up in the trees, tables with white tablecloths that I sewed myself, and food that we prepared with the help of the neighbors. Jasmine cried because she was so happy. She hugged me and said, "Thank you, mother-in-law. Ethan is so lucky to have a mom like you." When they came back from their honeymoon, which was just a 3-day weekend at a beach resort in South Carolina that I paid for, I offered to let them stay in the house while they saved up for their own place. "It's not going to be forever," Ethan said. "Just until we get enough for a down payment on a condo. Take all the time you need," I replied. And I gave them the master bedroom, my room, the one with the big closet, the window overlooking the yard, the private bathroom that I had worked so hard to build. "You two are young. You need your space," I told them as I moved all of my things into the small room. Ethan protested and Jasmine said, "Oh, mother-in-law, you really don't have to do that." But I insisted because that's just who I am. I give. I yield. I make myself small so that others can grow. Kyla was born and then Samuel came along. I became the full-time grandmother. I watched the children while Jasmine was at work. I bathed them, fed them, and helped them with their homework. I got up in the middle of the night when they cried so their parents could sleep. I'm a light sleeper anyway. I cleaned the house, cooked for everyone, washed their laundry, ironed Ethan's shirts, and bought the groceries with my Social Security checks because I don't eat as much anyway. I never asked for anything in return. I never even complained because I honestly thought that was love. But sitting there on that bench at 5 o'clock in the morning, the day after that awful video, I realized something that just split me right in two. I had become completely invisible in my own home. And it wasn't because I was old or useless, but because I gave so much that I just stopped existing as a person. I became a function, a service, the woman who cleans, cooks, and watches the kids. And the worst part of it all is that I let it happen. The sun was starting to rise. The birds were singing in the lemon tree. I heard Ethan's door open and close. Footsteps heading towards the bathroom. I wiped away tears that I hadn't even realized were falling. I touched the wall of the house. Cold, solid, and mine. Every single brick held my sweat. Every tile held my blood. Every corner held my history. And no one, absolutely no one, was ever going to take that away from me, especially not someone who had never had to build anything with her own two hands. I got up from the bench, straightened my back, and took a really deep breath. The war had begun, but first I needed to know exactly what I was fighting for. I waited until breakfast time. I prepared smothered pork chops and grits, which has been Ethan's favorite ever since he was a little boy, with shredded chicken, cream, and fresh cheese. I set the table carefully with clean plates, folded napkins, freshly squeezed orange juice, and the glass pitcher that I inherited from my own mother. Jasmine came downstairs first. She was wearing silk pajamas that probably cost over $75. I know this because I saw the receipt in her bag. Her hair was pulled back in a perfect ponytail. She looked so rested and radiant. "Morning, mother-in-law," she said in that sing-songy voice that now just sounded completely fake to me. I didn't answer her right away. I just looked at her as I poured coffee into her favorite mug. The one with the floral design that she bought herself, and that no one else is allowed to use. "Jasmine," I finally said, my voice as calm as could be. "I need to talk to you about something." She looked up from her phone, because she hadn't even stopped checking it to say hello to me. "Yeah, what's up?" Her tone was distracted, completely uninterested. "I saw your video." The silence that followed was so heavy that I could literally feel the air changing in the kitchen. Jasmine blinked once, twice. Then she let out this nervous little laugh. "Oh, mother-in-law, what video are you even talking about?" "The one on TikTok where you say it's my duty to take care of the house and your children because I don't do anything else with my life." Her cheeks turned bright red. But it wasn't shame that I saw in her eyes. It was annoyance. Annoyance that I had caught her. "Oh, you're totally exaggerating. It was just a joke." She got up to pour herself more coffee, turning her back to me. People understood that it was just a joke. 63,000 people laughing at me. That really doesn't sound like a joke, Jasmine. I heard footsteps coming down the stairs. Ethan was coming down. He was wearing the pajamas that I got him for Christmas, and his hair was all messy. He looked tired. He works hard, I know that, but when he saw my face he knew something was definitely wrong. "What's going on?" he asked, looking back and forth between the two of us. Jasmine jumped in before I could even say anything. She went up to him with that victim look that I now recognized perfectly. "Your mom is mad about a video I posted, but honey, it was just a joke. Everyone on TikTok knows it's just fun content. It's not meant to be taken seriously." Ethan looked over at me, and in his eyes I saw something that hurt me more than 1,000 videos ever could. Doubt. He actually doubted me. "Mom, what video is she talking about?" I took out my cell phone. My hands were trembling just slightly, but I held it as steady as I could. I opened up TikTok and searched for Jasmine's profile. The video was still right there. It now had 92,000 likes. I showed it to him. Ethan watched the whole thing. I saw his eyes moving as he followed the images, reading the comments, watching his expression change from curiosity to discomfort. But then he actually spoke, and his words were even worse than any insult. "Mom, I really think you're overreacting." I felt like someone had just dumped a bucket of ice-cold water on my back. "Overreacting?" I repeated, my voice barely even a whisper. "It's just that." Ethan scratched the back of his neck, looking really uncomfortable. "It's just a video. Jasmine has a lot of followers. She makes that kind of content. It's nothing personal." "It's nothing personal?" My voice rose before I could even control it. "She filmed me without even asking me for permission. She put me on display in front of thousands of people. She said it's my duty to serve you too. And you're saying it's nothing personal?" Jasmine crossed her arms. She was no longer even pretending to be sorry. "Mother-in-law, you told me yourself just 2 weeks ago that you loved watching the kids, that it was the best part of your life. I was just repeating your words." It was true. I had said those things, but not in the way that she was presenting it. Not with that mocking tone, not to justify using me. "Besides," Jasmine went on, now feeling much more confident because she could see that Ethan wasn't going to defend me. We all live here together. It's completely normal for everyone to contribute. We pay the utilities, we buy the food, and you help out with the house. We all contribute. Something in my chest tightened up so much that I honestly thought I was going to pass out. You pay the utilities? I asked slowly. And the food? Well, yeah, Ethan said as if it was just the most obvious thing in the world. The electric bill, the gas, the water, the groceries, it all comes right out of my paycheck. I just sat down hard in the chair because my legs just wouldn't hold me up anymore. Ethan, I said, looking him straight in the eye. Do you even know whose name is on the deed to this house? He frowned. What does that even have to do with anything? Just answer me. I don't know. Dad's, I guess, or maybe both of your names. Jasmine was looking at me curiously now, too. I felt something break inside me. Not from sadness but from pure indignation. This house is in my name. Only my name. I bought it back in 1993 with my own money. Every single dollar that I paid for the down payment, every monthly payment for 15 years, came straight from my own two hands. Your father never even saw it finished because he died before I could even afford to buy it. I built the bathroom with my own two hands. I laid those tiles. I planted that yard where your children play. And I have never, ever charged you a single dollar in rent. The silence in the room was absolute. The utilities that you pay so proudly are for my house. The food that you buy is cooked on my stove, stored in my refrigerator, served on my table. You sleep in my bedroom. You bathe in my bathroom. You breathe in my living room. I watched Jasmine clench her jaw. And never, in the 5 years that you two have been living here, have I ever asked for anything but respect. Mom, just calm down, Ethan said. And that simple phrase was the final straw. Calm down? After your wife put me on display in front of thousands of people? After they called me a gold digger, a useless old woman, a family burden, after you two laughed at me? Ethan turned completely pale. You heard us? I heard you two laughing at the video yesterday afternoon. You said, oh Jassy, you're right. Besides, Mom's old now. What else can she do? My son just looked down at the floor. He couldn't even meet my gaze, but Jasmine could. And what I saw in her eyes just chilled my blood. There was absolutely no remorse there. There was only pure annoyance. Well, if it bothers you so much, she said, releasing those words like little daggers, I can just delete the video. Happy now? It's not about the video, Jasmine. It's about respect. It's about this being my house, and about me deserving to be treated with dignity in it. Nobody disrespected you, she yelled, raising her voice now. Now you're the one making a huge drama out of something that everyone does on social media. You really should be grateful that I even included you in my content. Other influencers charge people to even appear in their videos. I honestly couldn't believe what I was hearing. I looked over at my son, really hoping that he would say something, that he would defend me, that he would set some boundaries with his wife. But all Ethan said, his voice just tired, was, Mom, I really think you're both overreacting. Jasmine, just delete the video. Mom, just forgive her. Let's just drop it, okay? I don't want any fights in this house. And that's when I understood everything. My son wasn't going to defend me. He had chosen this false peace over justice. He had chosen not to inconvenience his wife over protecting his own mother. I got up from the table. The pork chops and grits had all gotten cold. No one had even touched them. You're right, I said with a calm that I definitely didn't feel. I don't want any fights either. Have a good day. I went upstairs to my room, locked the door, and for the first time in a really long time I cried. But it wasn't out of sadness, it was out of rage, because I had just discovered that in my own house, the one that I built with my own two hands, the one that I paid for with my blood and sweat, I was worth less than the comfort of a manipulative daughter-in-law and the cowardice of a completely blind son. But if I've learned anything at all in this life, it's that tears always dry up, and that rage turns into action. I dried my face, opened my bedside table drawer, took out an old notepad where I kept important numbers, and started making some calls, because Jasmine and Ethan had just made a terrible mistake. They thought that because I was older I was weak. They were about to find out that the women of my generation didn't make it by being pushovers. We made it by being a step ahead of the game. 3 days went by. For 3 days I played it cool like nothing was amiss. I made breakfast, picked up toys, and smiled whenever the kids gave me a hug. I greeted Jasmine politely when she walked by, acting like I was just another piece of furniture. But on the inside everything had shifted. Now I was observant, I was all ears, and I was taking mental notes of every little thing I used to let go. On Monday night, Jasmine went out on the town with her friends. She got back around 11 o'clock smelling like cigarettes and some fancy perfume that I didn't recognize. Ethan was already asleep. He didn't ask her anything when she came in. On Tuesday, while I was tidying up their room, because yeah, I was still doing it, even though every single cell in my body was screaming at me to stop, I stumbled upon a receipt from an Italian restaurant. $150 for a dinner for two. Date: Wednesday of the previous week. The very day Jasmine had told me she was going to the bank to run some errands. I didn't say a word. I just folded up the receipt and slipped it into my apron pocket. Wednesday was the day the tables turned. It was close to midnight. I couldn't sleep. Lately I had been sleeping worse than ever, tossing and turning, my mind racing with everything that had been happening. I went downstairs to the kitchen to get a glass of water with lemon, my go-to remedy for calming my nerves. The house was dark and quiet. All I could hear was the hum of the refrigerator and the distant barking of a dog down the street. I poured my water and squeezed half a lemon into it. I was just about to head back upstairs when I heard Jasmine's voice. It was coming from the backyard. She was on the phone. I froze by the kitchen door, standing in the shadows with the glass in my hand. "No, Mom, not yet," Jasmine said, her voice low but clear. "I told you this takes time." Silence. I could hear someone on the other end. I know, but I can't just put the pressure on her. The old lady is more stubborn than we thought." My heart started pounding faster. "Look, I'll explain it to you again," Jasmine continued, her tone getting impatient. "As soon as she kicks the bucket, this house automatically goes to Ethan. He's her only son, and what's Ethan's is mine. That's how inheritance works." I felt like the floor was giving way beneath me. The lawyer told me that since we've been living here for 5 years, we have squatters' rights. We can claim we've contributed to keeping the place up. Besides, she's old. How much time does she have left? 10 years? She spoke about my death as casually as someone talks about the weather. "No, Ethan doesn't know anything," Jasmine said, letting out a dry laugh. "And he can't know. You know how sentimental he is about his dear old mommy. If I tell him the house is going to be ours, he'll start crying and saying his mother deserves respect and all that nonsense." I had to cover my mouth to keep from screaming. Of course I respect her mom, but we have to be practical. This house is easily worth $450,000. Do you know how much we could do with that money? Sell it? Buy something bigger in a better neighborhood? Invest the leftovers. My house, my life, my sacrifices reduced to a number in this woman's head. Look, I already talked to the lawyer last week. He explained everything. Since the house is only in her name, and there's no registered will, it goes straight to the forced heir, which is Ethan. Period. He doesn't even have to lift a finger. It's automatic. I heard the click of a lighter. Jasmine was lighting up a cigarette, something she always denied whenever Ethan asked if she still had that habit. The only problem would be if she makes a will and leaves the house to someone else. But who? She doesn't have anyone else. And I seriously doubt someone her age is thinking about those things. Old ladies from her generation don't go to notaries or draw up papers. They live in the past. I felt the rage bubbling up through my chest like hot lava. Besides, even if she did make a will, I checked. Forced heirs can claim their share. Ethan will always be entitled to something. So either way we win. Another silence. I heard her take a long drag from the cigarette. The video. "Oh, Mom, that was different. That was for my followers for the engagement. You know how this works. The more controversy, the more views. And yeah, the old lady got mad, but she'll get over it. What's she going to do? Kick us out? She doesn't have the guts." You saw how dramatic she got. But at the end of the day, she kept cooking and cleaning like always. That's when something inside me stopped hurting and started burning. Don't worry, Jasmine said with a confidence that made me sick. Everything is under control. I'll make sure to keep her happy and useful. As long as she keeps believing we're a happy family, she won't make any strange moves. And when the time comes, well, we got it. The house is ours. She hung up. I heard her footsteps coming toward the house. I moved quickly. I went upstairs as quietly as I could, my heart pounding against my ribs so hard I thought my chest was going to explode. I went into my room, locked the door, and leaned against it, my legs shaking. I still had the glass of water in my hand. I placed it on the bedside table so carefully that it didn't make a sound. And then it hit me. I had left my cell phone in the pocket of my robe, and without even thinking, purely on instinct, or maybe because God was watching over me, I had pressed record when I heard Jasmine's first sentence. With shaky hands, I pulled out the phone. The audio had recorded everything, every word, every plan, every lie. 8 minutes and 43 seconds of pure evidence. I sat down on the bed and listened to the audio all the way through to make sure it had recorded properly. Jasmine's voice was crystal clear. Her words left no room for interpretation. When it was over, I stared at the phone screen, and for the first time in days I smiled. Not a bitter smile, not a sad smile. The smile of a woman who has just found the winning hand in a game she thought she had lost. Because Jasmine was right about one thing. The women of my generation don't usually go to lawyers except when we do. I looked at the clock. It was 1 o'clock in the morning. Too late to call, but not too late to make plans. I opened the notepad where I kept important numbers. I flipped through the pages until I found what I was looking for. Azure Williams, my best friend of 30 years, a retired real estate attorney who stepped down 5 years ago, but had more legal knowledge in her pinky finger than any young lawyer. And below that, another number. Leo Jakes, my nephew, son of my brother Jerry, who passed away 10 years ago, a family law and probate specialist, a good man who visited me every month and always told me, "Auntie, anything you need, just give me a call." I had never needed anything until now. I hid the phone under my pillow like it was a treasure because it was my ammunition. I lay down, but I didn't sleep. I couldn't. My mind was working at full speed, drawing up plans, calculating moves, thinking 3 steps ahead. Jasmine thought she was clever. Jasmine thought I was a naive old woman who would let herself be taken advantage of until the day I died. Jasmine had no idea who she was messing with because I had made it through the death of my husband. I had raised a son on my own. I had built a house with my own 2 hands. I had worked 20 hours a day for years. And she thought she could outsmart me with cheap lies and amateur schemes. Poor girl. She had no idea of the storm she had just stirred up. The next morning I went down to breakfast like always. I made eggs and beans, poured coffee, and greeted them with a smile. Jasmine looked at me with that air of superiority that I now recognized perfectly. "Morning, mother-in-law," she said with fake sweetness. "Morning, dear," I replied. And as I served her plate, as I watched Ethan read the newspaper without even noticing me, as I listened to my grandchildren argue over the TV remote, I could only think of one thing. Enjoy these days because your world is about to come crashing down. And this time there won't be a TikTok video to save it. On Thursday at 10 o'clock in the morning, while Jasmine was at the gym and Ethan was at work, I left the house with my most inconspicuous handbag and the cell phone tucked safely into my pocket. I told the kids I was going to the market. Kyla barely glanced up from her tablet. Sam was watching cartoons. I took a taxi, an expense I usually avoid, but this was urgent. I gave the driver the address of the firm where Azure used to work before she retired. She now lived in a small condo near downtown in a building from the 1970s with mustard-colored walls and plants on every balcony. I rang the bell. I heard hurried footsteps. "Who is it?" Azure's voice asked over the intercom. "It's me, your girl, Ruthie Mae." A brief silence, then the buzz of the door opening. I climbed the 3 flights of stairs because the elevator was always out of order. Azure met me at her apartment door. Her white hair pulled back in a bun and her glasses hanging from a chain over her knitted burgundy sweater. "Ruthie Mae," she said. looking at me with those sharp eyes that miss nothing. By the look on your face, this isn't just a friendly visit. I stepped inside. The apartment smelled like freshly brewed coffee, and the cinnamon candles Azure always loved. We sat down in her small, cozy living room filled with books and family photos. "Tell me everything," she said without wasting any time, as she poured me a cup of coffee into delicate china. And I told her everything: the video, the humiliation, the conversation I overheard, Jasmine's plan to take my house. When I was done, I took out my phone and played the audio for her. Azure listened without interrupting. Her expression went from neutral to annoyed, then to downright furious. When the audio ended, she took off her glasses and rubbed the bridge of her nose. "That wretch," she said, her voice flat. "Azure never curses." The fact that she did now showed me how serious the situation was. Does Ethan know anything about this? Nothing. According to Jasmine, he's completely clueless. Typical. Azure took a long sip of her coffee. Sons are always the last to see what their wives are really like. "So what do you want to do, girl?" "I want to protect my house. I want them to learn a lesson. And I want Ethan to open his eyes." Azure nodded slowly, thinking. "First things first, your house is in your name, right?" "Yes, only in my name. I don't know why, but something stopped me from putting it in Ethan's name." "That something is called instinct, and it saved you," Azure said, putting her glasses back on. "Second, do you have a will?" I shook my head. "Then Jasmine is right about one thing. If you die without a will, the house automatically goes to Ethan as the forced heir. But that can be taken care of. You need to make a will, and you need to talk to my nephew Leo." I was thinking the same thing. "I have his number. Call him now. I'm going to text him too. That boy is good, and he's discreet." I dialed the number while Azure sent a WhatsApp message. Leo answered on the third ring. "Aunt Ruthie Mae, is everything all right?" His voice was warm, concerned. Leo was 38. He was an only child, and after his father, my brother Jerry, passed away from a heart attack, I had helped him with college expenses. He had never charged me, but he always told me he owed me everything. "Leo, I need to see you. It's urgent and it's legal." There was a pause. "Where are you?" "With your Aunt Azure. I'm leaving a hearing in 20 minutes. I'll be there in 40. Don't move." He hung up. Azure smiled. "That boy is one of the good ones, just like his daddy." We spent the next 30 minutes drinking coffee and making plans. Azure, with her legal mind sharp even after retirement, explained my options. "You can make a will where you leave the house to whoever you want. Ethan a foundation, a church, me if you like. It's your property. I don't want to disinherit my son. He's a victim of her. I know that too. But you can set conditions. You can create a trust. You can divide the property. There are lots of legal options that protect your interests and teach that snake a lesson without leaving your son homeless." "And the video, is there anything I can do about that?" Azure twisted her mouth. "Legally, it's complicated. You didn't sign any consent to appear in the video, but since it was filmed in your own house and she lives there, it's a gray area. You could ask for it to be taken down for unauthorized use of your image, but it would be a long process." "I don't want long processes. I want quick justice." "Then let's go for what really hurts, the assets. You take away what she really wants and destroy her without even stepping into a courtroom." I smiled. That's why Azure had been the best real estate attorney in the area. There was a knock on the door. Leo had arrived. I saw him through the peephole, tall, strongly built, with a neatly trimmed beard and a dark gray suit. He was carrying a leather briefcase. Azure opened the door. Auntie, Leo greeted, kissing her cheek. Then he turned to me. "Aunt Ruthie Mae." He hugged me. A real hug, the kind that reminds you that you're not alone in the world. The three of us sat around the coffee table. Leo took out a notepad and a pen. "Tell me everything." And I did. For the second time that morning, I told the whole story. I showed him the audio. Leo listened with an increasingly serious expression. When the audio finished, he closed his notepad and leaned back against the couch. "Auntie, that woman is not just manipulative. She's dangerous. And what she's saying is technically correct from a legal point of view, but ethically it's trash. Can I do something? You can do a lot and we're going to do it. Leo opened his briefcase and took out several documents. Option 1, a public will. You determine who inherits what and under what conditions. It's rock solid if done correctly. Can I set conditions? Of course. You could say Ethan inherits the house only if he gets divorced. You could say the house is sold and the money is split among your grandchildren. You can create a trust where you maintain control until your death, and then it goes to whoever you choose. The options are endless. I don't want to punish Ethan. I want to protect myself from her. Leo nodded. Then I suggest this. You create a living trust. You are the grantor and the lifetime beneficiary. That means the house remains yours and only yours while you live. No one can claim it, sell it, or do anything with it. When you die, you designate heirs with whatever conditions you want. Jasmine couldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. The trust is completely protected. Even if Ethan inherited later, it would come in as his separate property, not communal. She wouldn't have any right to it. I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. How long does that take? If we start today, it'll be ready in 1 week. I need you to bring me the house deed, your official ID, and you'll come with me to the attorney's office next Tuesday. I'll take care of preparing everything. Is there anything else? I asked, taking a deep breath. I want them out of my house. Leo and Azure exchanged glances. Evict them? Leo asked. I don't know if that's the right word, but I don't want to keep living with someone who's waiting for me to die, so she can take what is mine. Legally you can. It's your house. They don't have a lease agreement. They live there because you're letting them, and you can take that back whenever you want. It's that simple. But Auntie Leo looked at me with concern. Ethan is your son. This is going to break up the family. Are you sure? I stayed silent for a long moment. I thought about the cold pork chops, the mocking laughter, the viral video, the plan to steal my house, the blindness of my son. The family is already broken, Leo. I'm just making visible what they destroyed in secret. Azure squeezed my hand. Then we'll do this right, Leo said. And we'll do it legally. I'll help you every step of the way. We left 2 hours later with a clear plan. On Tuesday, we would go to the attorney to create the trust. On Wednesday, Leo would help me do a legal inventory of everything that was mine in the house. And on Saturday, the day they would be away, we would execute the master plan. I took a taxi home. It was 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Jasmine was in the living room painting her nails while watching a show on TV. She didn't even look up when I came in. Did you buy vegetables? She asked without taking her eyes off the screen. I forgot, I lied. I'll go tomorrow. Oh, mother-in-law, how scatterbrained. Well, we'll have to order pizza then. I looked at her there, so comfortable in my armchair, using my electricity, breathing my air, planning to steal my life, and I smiled. Yes, dear. Order pizza. I went up to my room, locked the documents Leo had given me in a drawer, and dialed one more number on my cell phone. Hello, Cousin Marcia. It's Ruthie Mae. I need a favor, and it has to do with social media. Marcia, my second cousin, was 50 years old and had over 200,000 followers on TikTok. She was famous for her traditional cooking videos, but she also knew how the algorithm worked, how to make something go viral, how to tell a story that hits you right in the heart. Tell me everything, she said with that energy that always characterized her. And I told her. When I was done, Marcia let out a long whistle. Cousin, that girl messed with the wrong person. When you're ready for your revenge, you let me know. I'll make sure half of America hears about it. I hung up. Everything was in place, the chess pieces set, the plan drawn. Now all that was left was to wait for the exact moment to move the queen and destroy the enemy's king. The weekend brought unexpected news. Jasmine walked into the kitchen on Friday night with her cell phone in her hand, and that spoiled child smile she wore when she wanted something. Mother-in-law, she said, her voice sugary. Guess what? We won a weekend getaway at the Grand Cypress Resort. A work raffle all paid for. Hotel meals, spa. We leave early tomorrow and get back late Monday night. My heart jumped, but I kept my face neutral. That's wonderful, dear. You deserve it. You've both been working so hard. Ethan appeared behind her carrying a suitcase. Mom, are you sure you'll be okay? It's 3 days. It's 3 days, son. I'm 68, not 88. I can take care of myself. But the kids, he started to say, the children are staying with me. Or were you planning to take them to the spa? I said, raising an eyebrow. Jasmine and Ethan exchanged uncomfortable looks. Well, we thought, Jasmine bit her lip, that they could come with us. There's a kids' pool. Or they can stay with Grandma and have a good time here. We'll make cookies, watch movies, go to the park. I looked at Kyla and Sam, who had just run in. What do you two prefer, kids? Boring spa with your parents or fun weekend with Grandma? With Grandma, they both shouted at the same time. Case closed. I saw the annoyance in Jasmine's eyes, but she didn't say anything. Ethan looked relieved not to have to deal with the children on their romantic getaway. They left at 7 o'clock Saturday morning. I waved them off at the door with hugs and kisses. Jasmine gave me a loose hug, the kind that means nothing. Take care, mother-in-law, and watch the kids closely. As always, I replied with my best obedient grandmother smile. Ethan kissed my forehead. Thanks, Mom. You're the best. I watched them get into the car. Watched them drive away down the street. Watched them turn the corner and disappear. I closed the door, took a deep breath, and took out my cell phone. Leo, they're gone. Perfect. I'll be there in 30 minutes with the truck. I went upstairs to wake the children. I gave them a quick breakfast of cereal, milk, and bananas. Grandma, are we going to the park? Sam asked, his mouth full. Later, sweetheart. First, Grandma has some things to do. In the meantime, do you want to watch movies on my tablet? Their eyes lit up. I normally didn't let them watch TV in the morning, so this was a treat. I set them up in the living room with blankets and my tablet loaded with their favorite cartoons. I gave them cookies and juice. They would be entertained for at least 2 hours. At 8:30, Leo arrived. He wasn't alone. He had a small moving truck and 2 strong men in blue overalls. Auntie Leo greeted me, getting out of his SUV. I'd like you to meet Roberto and Chewy. They're trustworthy. They work with a friend of mine, discreet and fast. The men greeted me respectfully, taking off their caps. Good morning, ma'am. Where should we start? I opened the front door. The master bedroom. Everything in there is theirs. Clothes, furniture. They brought their personal belongings. Everything comes out. Leo took out a notepad. Let's do this properly. I'm going to list every single thing we take out. Photos too, just in case they accuse us of theft. We'll have evidence that we only removed what belonged to them. For the next 3 hours, those 2 men worked like organized ants. They carried out the modern dresser Jasmine had bought 2 years ago. The king-sized bed they brought when they got married because the one in the house was too old. The vanity with the LED-lit mirror, the floating shelves, the 50-inch television Ethan installed on the wall, every shoebox of Jasmine's, every suit of Ethan's, every dress, every tie, every perfume, every facial cream, every beauty product, everything. Leo took photos of each item before it went downstairs. I checked off a list. The bookshelf, I said, pointing to the dark wood unit next to the window. Are you sure? It's nice, Leo said. They bought it a while ago. I used to have an old pine one, but it's out in the backyard shed now since they brought this new one in. It's gone. The men took it apart and carried it out piece by piece. When they were finished with the master bedroom, it looked like a vacant hotel room. All that was left were the light blue walls, the color I had picked out 15 years back, and the hardwood floor that I had paid for myself. Now for the bathroom, I declared. Everything needs to go. Jasmine's fancy products, each costing more than $35, Ethan's electric toothbrush, the brand new towels they bought last year, the laundry basket they brought, even the bath mat. I only left my old towels and a basic bar of soap. What about the living room? Roberto asked, wiping the sweat from his brow. I glanced around. The gray sectional sofa took up half the room. They had purchased it 2 years ago because my navy blue fabric one didn't fit their style. The television is theirs too. My old one was smaller, so they moved it to their bedroom. They hauled out the sofa, the glass coffee table, the 60-inch television, the sound system, and even the decorative plants in those modern pots that Jasmine had used to brighten up the space. I retrieved my old navy blue armchair from the shed. It was a little worn but clean and comfy. We put it back in its usual spot. My 32-inch television was back in the living room. My carved wooden coffee table, which used to belong to my mother, was back in its place. The house was starting to feel like my house again. The kitchen? Chewy inquired. Take out the Italian coffee maker Jasmine brought, the set of nonstick pans they bought, the new blender, the microwave oven they installed, basically anything that wasn't here before they moved in. We even opened the china cabinet. This set of minimalist white plates is theirs, I said, pointing to the square dishes I couldn't stand. Take the whole set. I have my floral plates in storage. Leo gave me a look that bordered on admiration. Auntie, you're ruthless. I'm fair. I'm keeping what's mine. They can take what's theirs. What's the problem? He smiled. By noon the truck was packed. Where are we taking all this stuff? Roberto asked. To the Maplewood Avenue storage unit, Leo said, handing him a piece of paper with the address on it. It's already rented and paid for 1 month. Here's the key. I gave him the key I had picked up on Thursday. A 60-foot storage unit. More than enough room for all their belongings. The men drove off with the truck. Leo stayed behind with me. Now for the fun part, he said, taking a small toolbox out of his SUV. He changed the lock on the front door. The old silver lock that had been there for 15 years was replaced with a new gold steel one. Here you go, he said, handing me 3 new keys. One for you, one spare, and one just in case. Is this even legal? I asked, even though I already knew the answer. Totally. It's your house. You can change the locks anytime you want. They don't have any tenants' rights because they don't pay rent. Technically, they're just guests living here because you let them. I slipped the keys into my pocket. The house looked different, emptier, but more like mine, as if it had regained its soul. I cleaned everything, swept, mopped, dusted, and arranged my old furniture back where it belonged. I took out the photographs of Richard, of Ethan when he was a little boy, and of my parents, which I had kept in storage, and put them back up on the walls. I put tablecloths on the dining table, the hand-embroidered ones my mother had given me when I got married. I watered the plants in the yard, and when I was done, I sat in my navy blue armchair in my living room in my house, and enjoyed a cup of coffee in my favorite mug, the one with the little flowers that Jasmine had banished to the back of the cabinet for being old-fashioned. The children were still glued to the TV watching cartoons, oblivious to everything. Leo sat down next to me. How are you feeling about all of this? I considered the question. I looked for guilt, remorse, doubt. I didn't find anything but peace. I feel free, I said. Finally he nodded. They're coming back on Monday. Are you ready for that? More than ready. It's going to be ugly, Auntie. I know, but the ugly part has already happened. When they turned me into a meme, when they plotted to rob me. When my own son laughed at me. That was ugly. This is justice. Leo got to his feet. I'll be here on Monday. Just let me know what time, and you won't be alone. Thank you, nephew. After he left, I made my grandchildren's favorite dinner, homemade chicken tenders, French fries, and colored gelatin. We ate in the backyard, sitting on the concrete bench under the lemon tree. Grandma, why did they take so many things out of the house? Kyla asked suddenly. My 9-year-old granddaughter was more observant than anyone realized. I was just tidying up, sweetheart. Sometimes you have to get rid of the things that aren't working anymore to make room for better things. My parents are going to be mad. I looked into her eyes. Those light brown eyes she got from Ethan. Maybe. But sometimes adults have to make tough choices so that everyone can learn. Do you understand? She nodded, even though she probably didn't fully grasp the situation. The rest of the weekend was surprisingly peaceful. We played games, watched movies, and baked chocolate chip cookies. I read them stories before bed in my bed. All 3 of us squeezed in, but we were happy. On Sunday night, after putting the children to bed, I sat in the dark living room. Tomorrow they would be back. Tomorrow they would see what I had done. Tomorrow everything would change. I pulled out my cell phone and sent a text message to Leo. Get here at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. They'll be here by then. His reply was immediate. I'll be there, Auntie, with all the legal backup you need. I put the phone away. I looked around my house, my real house, the one I had built, the one I had defended, the one no one was going to take away from me. And I waited because the storm was about to break. And this time I was the lightning. On Monday at 4:30 in the afternoon, I heard their car pull up in front of the house. I was sitting in my navy blue armchair. My hands were crossed in my lap, my back was straight. I had made coffee, a whole pot, because I knew this was going to take a while. The children were in the backyard playing with their toy cars. I had told them not to come out until I called them. I heard the car doors slam shut, voices, laughter. They seemed happy from their weekend getaway. Footsteps approached the door. The sound of a key being inserted into the lock, turning without opening it. Then silence again. The key, the attempt, the resistance. What's going on? It won't open, Ethan's confused voice said. Try again, Jasmine said impatiently. More attempts, more metallic sounds of frustration. Is it jammed? Ethan sounded worried. I stood up from the armchair and smoothed my dress. I was wearing my favorite, the beige one with embroidered flowers, the one I always wore for important occasions. I walked to the door. From inside, I could hear them still struggling with the lock. I opened it. Ethan was standing there, a key in his hand, sweating. Jasmine was behind him, looking annoyed, carrying her expensive beach bag. Mom, thank goodness you're here. The lock is jammed. We can't. Ethan started to say. It's not jammed. I interrupted him, my voice calm. I changed it. Absolute silence. They both looked at me as if I had spoken in a foreign language. What do you mean you changed it? Jasmine asked with a nervous laugh. Why would you do that? Because it's my house and I decided to change the locks. Mom, what is going on? Ethan dropped his suitcase. His face showed genuine confusion. Come in, I said, stepping aside. But leave your suitcases outside, please. What? It's hot out here. Jasmine tried to come inside with her luggage. I said leave them outside, I repeated more firmly. Something in my tone stopped them. They left the suitcases on the porch and came inside. And that's when they saw it. Jasmine was the first to notice. Her eyes darted around the living room as if it were a place she had never been before. Where is my furniture? She asked, her voice becoming shrill. Where's the sectional? The TV? What did you do? Ethan looked around, his mouth agape. Mom, where is everything? In a storage unit, I replied calmly, as I sat back down in my armchair. On Maplewood Avenue. Your things are there waiting for you. Our things. Jasmine's voice went up 3 octaves. What did you do with our things? I moved them to a safe place. Everything you brought into this house is packed and stored. Nothing is missing. Everything is accounted for. Jasmine ran toward the stairs. I heard her running up the steps 2 at a time. I heard her scream from upstairs. Ethan, come up here. She took everything. She took everything. My clothes, my shoes, my vanity, the bed. Footsteps running, doors opening and closing. The bathroom too. My creams, everything. More footsteps coming down now. Jasmine first, her face red with fury. Ethan behind her, pale as a ghost. Are you insane? Jasmine yelled, standing in front of me. This is theft. I'm calling the police. You're going to jail. Call them, I said, unperturbed. I have the deed to the house. I have a complete inventory of everything I removed. I have photos of everything and I have witnesses. I didn't touch anything that wasn't yours. We live here. You can't just kick us out like this. I'm not kicking you out. Your things are in a safe place. You can stay, but you'll sleep in the rooms I choose, with the furniture I provide, under the rules I establish. Mom, I don't understand. Ethan finally spoke. His voice was trembling. What is all of this? Why? What did we do? I looked at him. My son, my only son. I felt a pang in my chest, but I didn't back down. Ethan, sit down. You too, Jasmine. It's time we talk about the truth. I'm not sitting down. I want my things back now, Jasmine yelled. I took my cell phone out of my dress pocket. Before you keep yelling, there's something you need to hear. I don't care, Jasmine began. I pressed play. Jasmine's voice filled the living room. No, Mom. Not yet. I told you this takes time. I know. But I can't just pressure her. The old lady is more stubborn than we thought. I watched the color drain from Jasmine's face. I let the recording play, every word, every plan, every lie. As soon as she dies, this house automatically goes to Ethan. The lawyer told me that since we've been living here for 5 years, we have possession rights. This house is easily worth $450,000. Ethan sank onto the armchair. His face went from confusion to absolute horror. No, Ethan doesn't even know anything. You know how sentimental he is about his dear old mommy. My son looked at me. There were tears welling up in his eyes. The audio continued until the last venomous word. When it stopped, the silence was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Jasmine tried to speak, but her voice cracked. Taken out of context. A joke. A lie. I finished for her. No, Jasmine. That was last Wednesday at 11:30 p.m. In my backyard, talking to your mother, plotting to take my house. I don't. She searched for words, excuses, anything. You lied. You manipulated. And worst of all, you lied to my son. You used him as a ladder to climb to something that never belonged to you. Ethan had his head in his hands. His shoulders shook. Ethan, I can explain. Jasmine tried to get close to him. Don't touch me, he yelled, pushing her away. It was the first time in 5 years I had ever seen him yell at her. Is everything she said true? Is it true? Honey, you have to understand. I just wanted to secure our future, the children's future. Answer me. Is it true or not? Jasmine opened her mouth, closed it, and in that silence, Ethan found his answer. He got up from the armchair, stumbled slightly, and looked at me, his eyes filled with tears. Mom, I didn't know. I swear to God, I didn't know anything about this. I know, I said softly. That's why I didn't take your things too. He let out a sob, a sound that broke my heart, but didn't make me change my mind. What do you want us to do? He asked, his voice cracking. Just then there was a knock at the door. That must be my attorney, I said, getting up. He arrived just in time. I opened the door. Leo walked in with his briefcase, looking sharp in a dark suit. Good afternoon. I'm Mr. Leo Jakes, legal counsel for Mrs. Ruthie Mae Jakes. You must be Ethan Jakes and Jasmine Williams. They both nodded, still in shock. Perfect. I'm here to deliver some documents and explain the legal situation. Leo opened his briefcase and pulled out several papers. First, this is a copy of the irrevocable living trust that Mrs. Jakes executed last week. The house is now under an irrevocable trust where she is the grantor and lifetime beneficiary. That means no one, absolutely no one, can claim rights over this property while she is alive. He handed a copy to each of them. Second, here is the complete inventory of the assets that were removed from the house. As you can see, only belongings you brought after moving in were taken. Nothing belonging to Mrs. Jakes was touched. Third, Leo continued, his voice professional but firm. Here is the address and the key to the storage unit where your belongings are. You have 30 days to retrieve them. After that time, Mrs. Jakes is not responsible for what happens to them. Jasmine looked at the papers as if they were written in a foreign language. And fourth, Leo said, glancing at me before continuing, Mrs. Jakes is within her rights to ask you to vacate the property at any moment, as there is no lease agreement, and your stay here has been at the owner's discretion. However, I said, looking at everyone, I'm not going to kick you out. Ethan, you're my son. You'll always be my son, but things are going to change. If you want to stay, there will be rules. Jasmine, I looked her straight in the eye. You can stay too, but with conditions. Or you can both leave. The decision is yours. What conditions? Ethan asked, wiping his tears. First, you will pay rent. $1,500 a month to stay in my house. But Mom. Second, you will help with the housework, everyone, not just me. We will all make a schedule together. Third, absolute respect toward me, toward this house, toward what I have built. No more videos, no mocking, no secret schemes, or you're out. Jasmine opened her mouth to protest. And fourth, I continued without letting her speak. Jasmine, you will delete that video right now in front of me, and you will post an apology, a genuine one, or there is no deal. And if I don't accept? Jasmine asked, with the last bit of pride she had left. Then your husband and children stay and you go. The decision is yours. The silence that followed felt like an eternity. Ethan looked at Jasmine. Jasmine looked at Ethan. Both of them looked at the legal documents in their hands, and Jasmine, for the first time since I had met her, broke down. I'm sorry, she whispered, barely audible. I'm so sorry. I didn't know if she truly meant it, or if she was just saying it because she had no other options. But honestly, at that moment I no longer cared. I had gotten my house back. I had regained my dignity. And I had rescued my son from the trap of a lie. The rest would come with time. No one moved for what felt like hours but was only minutes. Jasmine was still standing in the middle of the living room with the legal papers shaking in her hands. Ethan was sitting in the armchair with his head bowed, breathing as if he had just run a marathon. Leo broke the silence. I'll give you guys a moment to process this. I'll be outside if you need me, Auntie. He squeezed my shoulder before leaving, closing the door softly behind him. Jasmine was the first to speak. You can't do this, she said. But her voice no longer had its earlier power. It sounded hollow, defeated. We're your family. Family doesn't plot to rob you. Family doesn't humiliate you on the internet. Family doesn't sit around waiting for you to die so they can take what's yours. I replied without raising my voice. I never said I wanted you to die. She tried to defend herself. How much time does she have left? 10 years? 5? I quoted her own words from the audio. I'm refreshing your memory. Jasmine closed her eyes. A tear rolled down her cheek, but I couldn't tell if it was genuine or just for show. Ethan abruptly stood up. I need air, he said, and went out to the backyard without looking at either of us. I watched him through the window. He sat on the concrete bench, the same one where I had cried and planned all of this. He buried his face in his hands. Jasmine took a step toward the door. Leave him alone, I told her. For once in your life, let him process everything without you trying to control the narrative. She stopped. She looked at me with something that might have been hate, or it might have been fear. Probably both. What do you want from me? She finally asked. To humiliate me? To destroy me? You already won. Isn't that enough? I don't want to humiliate you, Jasmine. I want you to understand what you did. I want you to look into the eyes of those kids playing out in the yard and ask yourself what kind of example you're setting for them. I did everything for them, for their future, to give them a good life. You were teaching them that it's okay to steal, lie, and use people. It's not stealing if it's an inheritance. It's stealing when you plot to take something based on the owner wanting to die soon. Jasmine opened her mouth to respond, but nothing came out because there was no defense. She sank to the floor, leaning against the wall, still clutching the papers. I don't know what to do, she said, her voice breaking. I don't know how to fix this. I sat in my armchair across from her. I let the silence hang in the air. You know what the saddest part of all this is? I said finally. I loved you, Jasmine. I really did. When Ethan brought you home for the first time, I saw the way you looked at him. I believed it was real love. I opened the doors of my home, my life to you. I treated you like a daughter. And I loved you too, she whispered. No, you didn't. You didn't want me. You wanted security. You wanted a free house. You wanted someone to watch your kids while you lived your life. But you never really wanted me. She shook her head, but without any real conviction. When you made that video, I continued, you didn't just humiliate me. You made me invisible. You reduced me to a function, a staff member who didn't get paid. And people laughed. Thousands of people who don't even know me believe that I was a burden, a gold digger, a useless old woman. It was just a video, she started to say. It was my dignity. My voice rose for the first time. Do you have any idea how many years I worked to build this house? How many sleepless nights? How many times I ate beans and cornbread to save up money? How many times my hands bled? Literally and figuratively. I got up and walked toward her. I built this with my own blood, Jasmine, and you were just going to take it as if it were nothing. As if I was worth nothing. As if my life didn't even matter. She was sobbing now. Her makeup was smeared. Her hair was a mess. She looked so different from the confident influencer who posted all those videos. The back door opened. Ethan walked in. His eyes were red, but his expression was different, harder, more resolute. Jasmine, get up, he said, his voice firm. She looked up at him from the floor. Honey, no. Get up. We need to talk outside. Jasmine got up with difficulty. Ethan took her arm, not violently but firmly, and led her out to the patio, closing the door behind them. I stayed in the living room. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but I could see their gestures through the window. Ethan spoke. Jasmine tried to interrupt. He raised his hand, signaling her to let him finish. She cried. He stayed firm. 20 minutes went by. When they came back inside, something had shifted between them. You could see it in the space they left between their bodies, in the way they avoided looking at each other. Ethan spoke first. Mom, we accept your conditions. All 5 of them. No more arguments. Jasmine just nodded silently, staring at the floor. But there's something else you need to know. Ethan continued, his voice trembling slightly. Jasmine and I are separating. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. Ethan, don't. I started to protest. It's not because of you, Mom. It's because of us. Because of what today has brought to light. I thought I knew the woman I married. I thought we shared the same values. I thought that we were a team. But today, I discovered that she had been keeping secrets, making plans, and that she saw me as just a means to an end. Ethan, please. We can work through this. Jasmine pleaded, grabbing his arm. I'll go to therapy. I'll change anything. He gently but firmly pulled away from her. I need time. I need to think. I need to understand who you truly are, because the woman in that audio? That's not the woman I thought I knew. What about the kids? Jasmine asked desperately. The children are staying here with me and my mom. Ethan turned to me. If she agrees. If not, we'll find somewhere else. But they're not going to be in an environment where these kinds of things are being planned again. Son. I didn't know what to say. Mom, please forgive me. Ethan knelt down in front of me. My adult son, 33 years old, on his knees. Forgive me for being so blind. For not standing up for you, for letting them treat you like that in your own house, for laughing at that video, for not believing you when you showed me the truth. The tears I had been fighting back finally spilled over. I just wanted to give you all a happy home, I said, touching his head. A family. I thought that I was doing the right thing by giving them space, by helping them, by making myself small so you all could grow. You made yourself too small, Mom. So small that you almost disappeared. And I didn't see it. I didn't want to see it because it was easier for you to do everything. For you to sacrifice, for you to give up your bedroom, your privacy, your entire life. Ethan, get up. That's enough now. I don't need you to tell me all of that. He looked at me, his eyes brimming with tears. Dad passed away when I was just 3 years old. I barely remember him. But you, Mom, you were always there. You worked yourself to the bone, pushing yourself past exhaustion to give me a decent life. You paid for my schooling, supported me in everything I did. And I repaid you with indifference, with minimizing your pain, with choosing the comfort of my marriage over your dignity. I can't believe how I treated you. It's not like that. I tried to reassure him, attempting to offer some comfort. Yes, it is, he insisted, shaking his head. And it ends today. He stood up straight, a newfound resolve in his posture. Jasmine will be going to the storage unit to sort through her belongings, to organize her things. She'll be looking for an apartment for herself. The kids and I are staying here in this house. I'll pay you the rent you asked for, even though I know it's ridiculously low considering the market rate. I'll help with the house upkeep. And I'll learn to be the son you deserved from the very beginning. The son you raised who somehow forgot his place. I glanced over at Jasmine, my eyes searching for any sign of rage or resentment, some kind of dramatic outburst. Instead, all I saw was defeat etched across her face, a resignation that hung heavy in the air. "When do you want me to leave?" she asked in a flat, monotone voice devoid of emotion. "You can stay in the guest room tonight," I said, trying to choose my words carefully, trying to tread lightly. "Tomorrow you can start looking for your own place. You have 1 month to take your things out of the storage unit and sort out your situation, figure out where you're going from here. The children can visit you whenever you want, but you no longer live here. This isn't your home anymore." She nodded, offering no resistance, no argument, without fighting back or trying to manipulate the situation. Perhaps it was because she finally understood that she had lost, that there was no way to win this battle. Or perhaps it was because she never cared enough to truly fight for anything in the first place, that she never invested the emotion needed to stand up for herself. "There's one more thing," Ethan said, his voice firm and unwavering. "The video. Delete it now. I want it gone." Jasmine took out her cell phone with trembling hands, a visible tremor running through her body. She went to her TikTok account, located the video, the one that now had over 200,000 likes and countless comments, and deleted it with a swipe of her finger. "Now the apology," I said, my voice leaving no room for negotiation. "Public, sincere, or there's no deal. If you want to see your kids, you need to make this right." Jasmine looked at me, her eyes filled with a mix of emotions I couldn't quite decipher. There was something there that I couldn't quite identify. Was it real remorse? Cold calculation? Or simply resignation to her fate? "I'll do it," she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. "But not today. I need to process all of this first. I can't just do it right now." "You have until noon tomorrow," I said without yielding, my voice firm and unyielding. "Or the deal is off. You understand? No exceptions." She nodded slowly, acknowledging my ultimatum. Ethan went to the backyard to get the children, his face etched with sadness. He brought them inside, their eyes wide and confused. Kyla and Sam looked at us, sensing the tension in the air, the palpable weight of the situation, even if they didn't exactly understand what was happening. They were children after all. "Hey kids," Ethan said, kneeling down to their level so he could look them in the eye. "Mommy is going to be staying somewhere else for a while, but she'll see you often. You're staying here with Dad and Grandma. This will be your home. Is that okay?" he asked, looking for their approval, their acceptance. "Why?" Kyla asked, her brow furrowed with concern, with that unsettling intuition that children always seem to possess when something is wrong. "Because sometimes adults need time to fix things," Ethan replied, trying to explain in a way they could understand. "But we both love you very much. That will never change. You're the most important thing in our lives." Sam hugged my leg tightly, burying his face in my jeans. "Grandma is staying with us?" he asked, his voice muffled. "Yes, my love," I reassured him, stroking his hair. "Grandma is staying. I'm not going anywhere." "Good," he said with that disarming simplicity of a 6-year-old. "I like being with Grandma." Those simple words, spoken with such genuine affection, both broke my heart and began to heal it at the same time. They cut through the layers of pain and anger, reminding me of what was truly important. Jasmine said goodbye to her children with long kisses and tight hugs, holding them close as if she might never see them again. She cried, the tears streaming down her face, a stark contrast to her earlier stoicism. They hugged her back, not fully understanding the gravity of the situation, but feeling her sadness nonetheless. Then she went upstairs to the guest room without saying anything else, her shoulders slumped with defeat. Ethan prepared dinner. Something simple, something quick. Quesadillas with beans. We ate in silence, the tension still hanging heavy in the air. The four of us sitting at my table with my tablecloths eating the simple meal. After putting the children to bed, Ethan and I sat in the living room, the silence stretching between us like a tangible thing. "Are you sure about this?" I asked him, my voice laced with concern. "The separation? It's your family, Ethan. This will affect you and the kids forever." "It's my broken family, Mom," he said, his voice filled with a mixture of sadness and resolve. "I can't keep pretending everything is fine when the foundation of my marriage was a lie, built on a video and a plan to take advantage of you. It's been rotten for a long time. The children will be better off in an honest home, even if it's divided, than in one full of secrets and manipulation. I refused to let them grow up in that kind of environment." He was right, logically, rationally, but it hurt all the same. It was the end of the family I had dreamed of, the picture-perfect life I had envisioned. "I love you, Mom," Ethan said, resting his head on my shoulder like he used to when he was a little boy, seeking comfort and reassurance. "And I'm going to prove it to you every day from now on. I'm going to make you proud." "I know, son," I said, stroking his hair. "I know you are. I know." That night I lay in my bed, the one I had taken back from the small room and put back in my master bedroom, reclaiming my space, my domain. I looked up at the ceiling, the familiar patterns and textures offering a strange sense of comfort. I had won my house back, but I had lost the illusion of the perfect family, the fantasy I had been clinging to for so long. Was it worth it? I looked around the room, taking in my surroundings. My room, my space, my restored dignity. Yes, I decided. It was worth every tear, every sleepless night, every moment of pain and humiliation. It was worth it to regain my self-respect. The next morning I went downstairs at 6 a.m. as always, driven by habit and routine. I made coffee and took out some pastries I had bought the day before, little treats to try and bring some normalcy back into the house. The house smelled different, lighter, as if the smoke from a fire that had been burning for years had finally cleared, leaving behind a sense of clean air. Ethan came down at 7 o'clock, his face etched with fatigue. He had dark circles under his eyes, but he looked calmer, more at peace than I had seen him in a long time. "Morning, Mom," he said, forcing a smile. "Morning, son," I replied, returning the smile. "Did you sleep a little but well? I hope you managed to get some rest." He poured himself a cup of coffee, the rich aroma filling the kitchen. "And you? How did you sleep?" "Better than in months," I admitted, surprising myself with the honesty of my words. Jasmine didn't come down until 9 a.m., a stark contrast to her usual meticulously put-together appearance. Her hair was pulled back in a sloppy bun, no makeup on her face, and she was wearing the same clothes as the day before, wrinkled and unkempt. She looked small, vulnerable, almost childlike. "Morning," she said in a quiet voice, barely audible. No one replied. The silence hung heavy in the air, a clear indication of her pariah status. She poured herself coffee in silence, avoiding eye contact. She sat at the table, distance from us, creating a clear boundary between herself and the rest of the family. At 11 a.m. she was still sitting there, staring at her cell phone, scrolling endlessly through social media. The clock was ticking, and the deadline was fast approaching. "It's almost noon," I reminded her, my voice firm but not unkind. She looked up, her eyes swollen from crying, red and puffy. "I know," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "Are you going to keep your part of the deal?" I asked, my gaze unwavering. There was a long moment where I thought she would say no, that she would refuse to comply, that she would get up and leave without another word, forfeiting her chance to see her children regularly, severing all ties with the family. But then she nodded slowly, a subtle acknowledgement of her commitment. "I need to record something," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "Can I use the front yard? I don't want to do it inside." Jasmine went out to the yard with her cell phone and a small tripod she took from her bag, her movements hesitant and unsure. I watched her through the window, setting up the camera, testing angles, fixing her hair, a fleeting glimpse of her former vanity. Even at her worst, she still cared about her appearance. But then she started recording, and what she said took me completely by surprise. I couldn't hear her from inside the house, but I could see her face, the tears streaming down her cheeks, how she wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, how she gestured with her hands, how her voice broke with emotion. She recorded, stopped, recorded again. She did it 4 times, each attempt seemingly more raw and vulnerable than the last. When she finally came in, her face pale and drawn, she showed me her cell phone. "Before I upload it," she said, her voice barely a whisper, "I want you to see it so you know I kept my promise. I want you to see it's sincere." I pressed play, my heart pounding in my chest. Jasmine appeared on the screen. No filters, no makeup, just her, with red eyes and a trembling voice, her vulnerability laid bare for the world to see. "Hi everyone," she began, her voice shaking slightly. "I know many of you saw a video I posted 2 weeks ago, a video that gained a lot of attention. One where I mocked my mother-in-law, where I called her useless, where I said it was her duty to take care of my house and my children, to act as my maid and nanny." She paused, took a deep breath, trying to compose herself. "That video was cruel. It was unfair and it was a lie. My mother-in-law is not useless. She is the hardest working woman I know. She built the house we live in with her own hands. She paid for every brick by working double shifts after being widowed with a small child. She raised my husband alone, and when we got married, she opened the doors of her home to us without asking for anything in return. The woman is a saint." Tears were flowing freely now, streaming down her face, blurring her makeup. "And I repaid her with mockery, with public humiliation, with disrespect. Not just in that video but in my daily life. I treated her like she was my employee, like she owed me something. I thought she was a servant." She wiped her face with the back of her hand, smearing her mascara. "When the truth is I owe her everything. I am forever in her debt. She never had the obligation to help us, to take us in. Every meal she cooked, every child she watched, every space she gave up was a gift that I took as if it were my right, and it wasn't. It was generosity that I spat upon. I am making this video because I owe a public apology to her and to all mothers, mothers-in-law, and grandmothers who are treated as if they were invisible, as if their work had no value, as if their sacrifice didn't matter. I owe them a voice because I silenced one." Her voice broke, cracking with emotion. "I'm sorry. I truly am sorry. And I understand if you never forgive me, but I needed you to know and for everyone to know that I was wrong. Completely wrong. There's no excuse for what I did, and I take full responsibility for my actions." And to all the people who applauded that video, who laughed, who commented horrible things about her, please think twice before mocking someone you don't know, before jumping to conclusions based on a few seconds of edited footage. Behind that mother-in-law is a story of strength, sacrifice, and love that I failed to appreciate. And I am deeply ashamed of myself. The video ended, leaving a heavy silence in its wake. I stared at the blank screen, my mind reeling from what I had just witnessed. "Is it enough?" Jasmine asked in a small voice, her eyes filled with a mixture of hope and fear. "It wasn't perfect," I admitted, choosing my words carefully. There were parts that sounded rehearsed, a little stiff, but there was something genuine in her breakdown. In her tears I saw real remorse. And I think that's what matters. "Upload it," I finally said, nodding my approval. She nodded, her fingers trembling as she pressed the buttons, her anxiety palpable. She added text to the video. The apology I should have given from the start. And then she pressed publish. The video was there on her profile, visible to her 230,000 followers, exposed for the world to see. "Done," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "It's up." Ethan, who had been watching from the doorway, his arms crossed over his chest, nodded slowly. "Now pack your things. I'll help you look for an apartment this afternoon. We can get this over with." Jasmine went upstairs without saying anything else, her steps heavy and defeated. An hour later, my cell phone started vibrating incessantly, buzzing with notifications. It was Marka, my cousin. "Did you see it? Did you see it?" she asked, her voice breathless with excitement. "See what?" I asked, confused by her urgency. Your daughter-in-law's video is blowing up. It's gone viral. Ruthie Mae, you're everywhere. You're trending. I opened TikTok on my phone, my fingers trembling slightly. Jasmine's video already had 50,000 views and was rising fast, the numbers climbing higher and higher with each passing second. The comments were multiplying by the second, a flood of opinions and reactions. Wow. At least she had the guts to apologize. You don't see this every day. Respect. It takes a lot of courage to admit when you're wrong. I wish my daughter-in-law had this humility. I could only dream. Plot twist. The mother-in-law turned out to be the hero. I love it. But there were others too, the naysayers and the skeptics. Nice video, but the damage is done. You can't take back what you said. She's only apologizing because she got caught. It's a PR stunt, a desperate attempt to save face. These influencers and their fake drama for views. I don't buy it for a second. The video reached 100,000 views in 2 hours, and the numbers continue to climb exponentially, spreading like wildfire across the internet. And then Marka called again, her voice even more excited than before. Cousin, can I tell your side of the story? People are asking for it. They want to know what really happened, what led up to all of this. They want the truth. Your story needs to be told, she insisted. You deserve to have your voice heard. I hesitated, torn between my desire for privacy and my growing sense of responsibility. I didn't want to be the center of attention, to further expose my life to the scrutiny of the internet. But then I thought about all the other older women who are treated as invisible, as burdens, as obligations, their contributions minimized and dismissed. Do it, I said, finally relenting. But respectfully, without attacking anyone. Just tell the truth, lay out the facts, and let people draw their own conclusions. I don't want to engage in a mudslinging contest. Marka worked quickly, fueled by her passion and her innate storytelling ability. That same afternoon, she uploaded a video, speaking directly to her audience with warmth and sincerity. She appeared in her kitchen, wearing her colorful apron, her trademark accessory, her voice as comforting and familiar as a warm hug. Hello, family, she began, addressing her viewers as she always did. Today I'm going to tell you a true story about a woman I've known since I was a child. A woman I admire and respect deeply. My cousin Ruthie Mae. And then she told everything, not with intimate details or with full names, but she told the essence of the story, the heart of the matter. A widow who built a house alone, brick by brick, who raised her son with love and sacrifice, who opened her home to her daughter-in-law, who was publicly humiliated and betrayed, who discovered a plan to steal her assets, and who finally defended herself with dignity and justice. This is a story about dignity, Marka said, looking directly at the camera, her eyes filled with emotion. About knowing your worth, about not letting anyone, not even your own family, treat you as if you are disposable. You're not trash. You're gold. Don't let anyone make you forget that. Marka's video blew up even more than Jasmine's, garnering even more attention and generating even more conversation. It reached 1 million views in 6 hours, an astonishing feat, a testament to the power of her message and the resonance of my story. The comments were an unstoppable river, a torrent of emotions and experiences. I cried. This is my mother's story. She went through the same thing and it broke her heart. My grandmother went through the same thing. She was taken advantage of and discarded. Thank you for giving her a voice. All mothers-in-law deserve respect. They are mothers too. They deserve to be treated with kindness and compassion. We need more stories like this of women who don't back down, who stand up for themselves, who refuse to be silenced. But what I didn't expect was what happened next. The ripple effect that spread far beyond my immediate circle. Other content creators started reacting to the video, adding their voices to the growing chorus. TikTokers, Instagrammers, YouTubers, all telling their own stories of mistreated grandmothers and mothers, of families taking advantage, of older women reclaiming their power and demanding respect. #RespectYourMother-in-law became a trending topic, a rallying cry for a generation that was finally starting to recognize the value and importance of these often overlooked figures. #Dignity after 60 was also trending, a celebration of the strength and resilience of women over 60, who were refusing to be defined by their age. My story, without me seeking it, had become a movement, a catalyst for change. 3 days later, a reporter from a morning news show called The House, her voice filled with enthusiasm. "Mrs. Jake, we would like to interview you. Your story is inspiring thousands of people. It's a beacon of hope in a dark world." "I don't know," I said, hesitating, still wary of the spotlight. "I'm not sure I'm comfortable with that." "You don't have to show your face if you don't want to," she reassured me. "We can film you from the back with a distorted voice, whatever you prefer. The important thing is your message. Your message is changing conversations across the country. It's making a real difference in people's lives." I thought about it for hours, weighing the pros and cons, considering the potential impact of sharing my story on a larger platform. Finally, I accepted, agreeing to the interview on my own terms. The interview was filmed in my living room, the setting familiar and comforting. I was sitting in my navy blue armchair, my back to the camera, with my voice unaltered because I decided I had nothing to be ashamed of, nothing to hide. The reporter asked me everything, delving into the details of my life, my experiences, and my motivations. How it was to build the house alone, brick by brick, to support my family with my own 2 hands. How I felt about the video, the humiliation, the betrayal. What led me to make the decision to take out their things, to finally stand up for myself. What I wanted to tell other women in my situation. "I want to tell them that they are not alone," I said, looking toward the window where the sunlight was streaming in, illuminating the room. "That their worth is not in what they do for others, but in who they are. That being kind does not mean being invisible, and that it is never, ever too late to recover your dignity. You have the power to change your life, no matter how old you are. Never forget that." The interview aired the following Monday, broadcast to millions of viewers across the country. It had 3 million views in the first week, a staggering number that I could barely comprehend. My cell phone wouldn't stop receiving messages, a constant stream of notifications from distant cousins, neighbors, and school friends I hadn't seen in 40 years, all reaching out to express their support and admiration. But the message that most impacted me, the one that truly resonated with me, was from a woman I didn't know. "Mrs. Jakes," it read. "My name is Patricia and I'm 72 years old. I have been living with my son and daughter-in-law for 8 years. They treat me just as you described. Invisible, useful only for cleaning and watching grandchildren, their personal servant. I'm a prisoner in my own life. I saw your story and cried all night. I saw myself in you. But this morning I spoke with a lawyer. I'm going to take back my house, the one I paid for with my own blood, sweat, and tears. I'm going to take back my life. Thank you for teaching me that there is still time, that it's not too late to reclaim my happiness. Thank you for showing me that grandmothers also have the right to be happy, that we deserve to be treated with respect and dignity. You are a true inspiration." I kept that message like a treasure, carefully saved among the hundreds of others I had received in those months. It was a reminder that all the pain, all the humiliation, all the difficult process had been worth it, not just for me, but for all the Patricias in the world, for all the women who once believed that their sacrifice made them invisible, who had been silenced and overlooked. For all those who thought it was too late to defend themselves, to stand up for their rights, to reclaim their lives. Meanwhile, Jasmine had found a small apartment on the north side of town, a modest space that she could afford on her own. She moved out with the basics, a suitcase filled with clothes and a few personal belongings. The children visited her on weekends, spending time with her in her new home. Ethan and she started couples therapy, although neither of them knew if the marriage would survive, if they could rebuild their relationship after so much damage. But that was no longer my battle, my concern. I had fought mine and won, and I had to trust that they would find their own way. 2 months later, the house had found a new rhythm, a new equilibrium, one that was more honest, more balanced, more equitable. Ethan got up early and made breakfast 3 times a week, sharing the responsibility and lightening my load. The other days I did it, but because I wanted to, not because it was my duty. On weekends we cooked together, a collaborative effort filled with laughter and conversation, while the children set the table, learning the value of teamwork and shared responsibility. We had made a schedule on a whiteboard hanging in the kitchen, a visible reminder of our commitment to fairness and equality. Monday, Ethan cleans bathrooms, I cook. Tuesday, I clean the living room, he cooks. Wednesday, we both cook. The children help clean their room and so on. The house was no longer a place where one person carried all the burden, where one person was taken for granted. It was a home where everyone contributed, where everyone felt valued and respected. On the first day of every month, Ethan handed me an envelope with $1,500, the agreed-upon rent for living in my house. I kept it in a savings account I had opened specifically for that money, a symbolic gesture of independence and financial security. "Mom, it's not enough," he had said the first time, his brow furrowed with concern. "Let me give you more. You deserve more." "No," I had replied, shaking my head. "This is symbolic. It's so you remember that living here is a privilege, not a right, and that privilege comes with responsibility and respect. It's not about the money. It's about the principle." He had nodded, finally understanding the lesson, the deeper meaning behind my actions. The children were flourishing in this new environment, thriving in the atmosphere of honesty and stability. Kyla had become more communicative, more open about her feelings. Sam was more confident, more self-assured. I taught them how to make sweet potato pies on Saturdays, passing down my family recipes and traditions, creating lasting memories. I taught them how to plant herbs in the garden, how to nurture life and appreciate the beauty of nature. And most importantly, I taught them how to value what they had, how to appreciate the love and support that surrounded them. "Grandma," Kyla had asked me one afternoon while we were kneading dough for pies, her small hands covered in flour, "why doesn't Mommy live here anymore? Where did she go?" It was the question I had been waiting for, the inevitable inquiry that I knew would eventually come. I sat down at her level, my hands still covered in dough, looking her directly in the eyes. "Sometimes adults make mistakes, my love," I said, choosing my words carefully. "And when those mistakes are big, they need time to fix them. They need to work on themselves, to learn from their errors. Your mom made mistakes with me and with this family, and now she is working on being better, on becoming a stronger and more compassionate person. But it takes time and it's not always easy." "But will she come back?" she asked, her voice filled with hope. "I don't know," I said honestly. "Maybe yes, maybe no. But what I do know is that you and your brother will always be loved by your mom, your dad, and me. We may not all live in the same house, but our love for you will never change. It will always be there." "Do you love us more now that Mommy isn't here?" she asked with that brutal innocence of children, cutting straight to the heart of the matter. "No, my darling," I said, hugging her close. "I loved you exactly the same before. The difference is that now I have space to show it, without being exhausted all the time, without feeling like I'm being taken advantage of." She nodded as if that made perfect sense, her young mind grasping the complex dynamics of the situation. Maybe for children it did, maybe they saw the world in simpler terms, unclouded by the complexities and baggage of adulthood. Jasmine still came on Sundays, making the effort to maintain a relationship with her children. She would take them to the park, to the movies, or out to eat, trying to create new memories and experiences. She brought them back before 6 p.m. in the evening, adhering to the schedule we had established. At first, our encounters were tense, filled with awkward silences and strained smiles. She would arrive, pick up the children, and leave, barely acknowledging my presence, avoiding eye contact. But with time something changed. The animosity began to fade, replaced by a cautious sense of understanding. One Sunday, after 3 months of this arrangement, Jasmine knocked on the door instead of honking from the car. A subtle gesture of respect. I opened it, my heart pounding in my chest. "Mrs. Jakes," she said, her voice different, softer, without that arrogance she used to carry, that air of superiority. "Can we talk?" Just for a few minutes? The children can wait in the car. I promise I won't take up too much of your time. I hesitated for a moment, then nodded, stepping aside to let her in. We sat in the living room, the same room where so much drama had unfolded. Me in my navy blue armchair, her in a wooden chair I had brought from the dining room, creating a physical distance between us. I want to thank you, she began, raising her hand when she saw I was about to interrupt. Please let me finish. I have something I need to say, and I want to get it out before I lose my nerve. I nodded, closing my mouth, allowing her to speak without interruption. I want to thank you for not letting me get away with it, for not enabling my bad behavior, for not allowing me to keep being that horrible person I was, for setting boundaries for me when no one else did. You forced me to face the truth. Her hands trembled slightly, her voice filled with a mix of vulnerability and determination. I've been in individual therapy twice a week, and I've realized a lot of things about myself, about my patterns of behavior, about my deep-seated insecurities. How I always looked for shortcuts for the easy way out. How I always wanted things easy, without putting in the hard work and effort required to achieve them. How I used people without even realizing I was doing it, manipulating them to get what I wanted. Jasmine. I started feeling a surge of compassion for her. Please let me finish, she repeated, her eyes pleading with me. Just let me say what I need to say. I closed my mouth again, nodding my understanding. You didn't deserve any of what I did to you. None of it. And the worst part is for a long time I didn't see it. I was completely blind to my own cruelty, to my own manipulation. I was so wrapped up in my own self-centered world that I couldn't see the damage I was causing. I didn't see my cruelty. I didn't see my manipulation. I had convinced myself I was smart, strategic, practical, when the truth is I was selfish and mean. I was a horrible person. A tear rolled down her cheek, glistening in the light. I don't expect you to forgive me, she said, her voice breaking with emotion. I don't expect us to be family again. But I needed you to know that what you did changed my life. It forced me to look at myself in a mirror, and I didn't like what I saw. I was disgusted with the person I had become. And now I'm trying to be someone different, someone my children can be proud of, someone worthy of their love and respect. I'm still working on it, but I'm determined to get there. She stood up, her shoulders slumped with exhaustion. That's all. I just wanted to tell you that. I needed you to know that I'm truly sorry for the pain I caused. Jasmine, wait, I said before she reached the door, wanting to offer her some comfort, some reassurance. She stopped, turning back to face me, her eyes filled with a mixture of surprise and apprehension. Please sit down, I said, gesturing to the chair. She returned to the chair cautiously, her movements hesitant and unsure. I wasn't perfect either, I said, breaking the silence. And I saw her surprise, the shock registering on her face. I made mistakes too. I played a role in this whole mess. I made myself too small. I gave too much, allowing myself to be taken advantage of. I let my boundaries fade until they disappeared. Until there was nothing left of me. And that wasn't right either, I admitted. I enabled your behavior by not standing up for myself, by not setting clear expectations, by not protecting my own well-being. But you were just being generous, she said, her voice filled with confusion. No, I replied, shaking my head. I was being cowardly. I was afraid that if I set boundaries my son would leave me, that he would choose you over me, that if I said no they would stop loving me. So I said yes to everything until there was nothing left of me, until I lost myself in the process. I took a deep breath, gathering my thoughts. You took advantage of that. You exploited my weakness, my insecurities, my fear of abandonment. Yes, she admitted, her voice barely audible. But I allowed it. I let it happen. And that is my part of the responsibility, my contribution to this dysfunctional dynamic. That doesn't justify. She started, her voice rising in protest. No, it doesn't justify anything, I interrupted. But it does explain how we got here, how we ended up in this mess. It helps us understand the root causes of our conflict. And if we are going to heal as a family, not necessarily like before, but as people who share grandchildren, then we need to be honest about everything, about our own shortcomings, about our own contributions to the problem. Jasmine wiped her eyes, her face etched with a mixture of sadness and understanding. Do you think you can ever forgive me? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. I thought about it, truly thought about it, weighing the pain and the betrayal against the possibility of healing and reconciliation. I considered the long and difficult road ahead, the challenges of rebuilding trust and fostering a healthy relationship. I don't know, I answered honestly. Forgiveness is complicated. It's not a light switch you just flip on. It's a process, a journey that takes time and effort. But what I can tell you is that I don't hold any resentment toward you. I am at peace with what happened because it gave me back something I had lost. My dignity, my self-respect, my voice. I understand, she said, nodding slowly. And one more thing, I added, wanting to offer her some encouragement, some hope for the future. I've seen how you've been with the children these past few months. More present, more attentive, more engaged in their lives. That speaks well of you. It means you're really trying to change, to be a better mother. She nodded, unable to speak, her eyes filled with tears. Keep going, Jasmine, I said, offering her a gentle smile. Keep going for them and for yourself. You're on the right path. Jasmine stood up, her face filled with gratitude. She came closer and to my surprise she hugged me, wrapping her arms around me in a brief but genuine embrace. Thank you, she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. For everything, even the hard stuff. Especially the hard stuff. You saved my life. When she left with the children, I stayed in the living room, wondering if I had really forgiven her. Or had I just let go of the anger, the resentment, the bitterness that had been poisoning my soul. Maybe it was a little of both, a combination of forgiveness and acceptance, a willingness to move forward without dwelling on the past. Perhaps forgiveness wasn't about forgetting or pretending nothing happened, but about releasing the pain, about choosing to heal and grow from the experience. Perhaps the therapy sessions have been rough, really forcing me to confront who my wife actually is. But in a strange way, they've also been the best thing because I got to see you again. The real you, not the woman who shrunk herself down to nothing, but the warrior you always were. It's just that I was too blind to see it. Ethan, just let me finish, okay? I couldn't help but smile. You sound exactly like Jasmine when you get like that. We both laughed, a real genuine laugh for the first time in what felt like forever. I really want you to know that I am incredibly proud of you. And not just for what you did, but for how you did it, with grace and dignity, without needlessly destroying anything and even giving Jasmine a chance to make amends. Everyone deserves a second chance, I said, stating what I truly believed. Yes, that's absolutely true, but the sad fact is not everyone takes those chances when they're offered. I honestly think Jasmine is trying to now. I honestly don't know if our marriage will survive all of this. Realistically, I don't think it will, but at least now we're being honest with each other, and that's a million times better than the comfortable lie we were living before. We just sat there in silence for a while, watching the sun slowly set behind the silhouette of the trees. Mom, I have something I want to give you, Ethan said, as he reached into his pocket and pulled out an envelope. What is this all about? Why don't I just open it and see? Inside, I found a legal document. I've read it really carefully. It was a formal waiver from Ethan, relinquishing any claim to the house. The document clearly stated that he recognized the house was mine and mine alone, and that he would never seek to inherit it or lay claim to it under any circumstances while I'm still alive. Ethan, you really don't have to do this. Yes, Mom, I do. I really need you to know that I'm staying here because you're allowing me to, not because I somehow have a right to be here. And if someday you decide you want your space back entirely, I will respect that decision without any questions asked or any arguments. Tears were welling up in my eyes, threatening to spill over, but I fought them back. You are my son. This house will always be your home, no matter what. But thank you for understanding all of this. Thank you for teaching me what it truly means to be a man. It's not about mindlessly protecting your own comfort. It's about standing up for the people you love and protecting them. even when that means bravely confronting difficult truths head-on. That night, after I had finally tucked the children into bed, I sat alone in my bedroom. The master bedroom, my bedroom with my bed, my vanity, and my peaceful view of the yard. I took out my old notepad where I had jotted down so many thoughts and feelings over the years, and I wrote, "Today I finally understood that true wealth isn't found in the things you possess, but in the things you refuse to allow to be taken away from you. Don't ever let them take away your voice, your dignity, or your right to take up space in your own life. Because once you get those things back, no house, no amount of money, no shallow comfort compares to the profound peace of knowing that you are finally whole." I slowly closed the notepad, turned off the bedside lamp, and then I slept deeply, peacefully, without any nightmares, without any worries, without any fear. Because finally, after all of my 68 long years, I had finally learned the most important lesson of all. You are not old. You are certainly not useless. And you are absolutely not invisible. You are a woman who built entire empires with her own two hands, who loved with every single fiber of her being, who fell down but always managed to bravely get back up again, who was humiliated but never destroyed, and who in the end proved to everyone that grandmothers are not made of delicate glass. We are made of resilient steel. If this story resonated with you and touched your heart, I want you to know that you are definitely not alone. Whether you are currently going through something similar, whether you know someone who is living through it, or simply because these words somehow deeply touched you, I want you to always remember this. It is absolutely never too late to recover your own dignity. It is never too late to establish healthy boundaries. It is never too late to remind yourself and everyone around you exactly who you really are. No matter what your age is, no matter how long you've been yielding to others, no matter how many times they have made you feel invisible, you still remain whole, incredibly valuable, and immensely powerful. Let me know in the comments where in the world you are watching this story from. Did you identify with anything that Ruthie Mae went through in her life? I would absolutely love to read your own stories too. And if this story stirred something deep inside of you, please give me a like and subscribe to my channel. Here we share real and inspiring stories of real women who bravely refuse to be invisible. Because our stories matter, our voices matter, and most importantly, we matter. Until the next story, my wonderful people, and always remember, grandmothers don't surrender. Grandmothers reclaim everything that is rightfully theirs. Did you like my story? If you listened all the way to the end, please drop a 1 in the comments. If you genuinely enjoyed it, you can support me by liking the video and even sending a small tip. I've got tons of other real-life stories just like this one on my channel, so please make sure to subscribe and check them out. I've also added 2 new stories on the screen that everyone seems to absolutely love. Thank you so much for being here and for listening. See you in the next one. With love and gratitude.